Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. The Last Place on Earth is a thrilling 9-year journey into the heart of Sumatra's Leuser ecosystem, a 2.6 million hectare rainforest where tigers, elephants, rhinos, and orangutans still roam free. This is a story about palm oil. It's about the sale of wildlife, the poaching of into this territory that these companies should not be doing, a lot of illegal activity, but also about some true heroes, people who have stepped up and doing everything they can to save the wildlife, preserve the land, so that people for the next many generations will be able to use it. The film is called The Last Place on Earth. We're joined today by the director, David Booth Gardner, as well as the producer, Shayne McGrath. To both of you, welcome to Cinemophile.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much. Terrific documentary. The fact that you're able to connect with the organizations that are doing their best for all the right reasons to ensure that the wildlife in this part of Sumatra that's under attack predominantly by palm oil interest, and palm oil manifests itself in all of our lives in the form of medicine, cosmetics, food, and it is a huge cash crop, not only in the location that we'll be talking about in Sumatra, but around the world. And this is an environmental time bomb, as well as the disaster for the animals who are in these regions of the world, particularly in Sumatra, which is what this film is focused on. It is devastating to the orangutans and the wildlife in this part of the world. The Last Place on Earth feels like a very ambitious undertaking. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of different people that we get to know in the course of the film. Shayne McGrath is the producer. I'll start with you. How did this project get started, and how did it become The Last Place on Earth?
Yeah, I was living over in Indonesia from 2010. So I've been working with the organizations on the ground for quite some time, and we were, campaigning to protect the rainforest and look after the wildlife. So we're getting further and further down this path, fighting against the corruption and the destruction. And felt like in the darkness, we were running media campaigns, and word was beginning to get out there. And we were very fortunate to be connected with David to be able to sort of take a deeper dive and elevate the story. So it's I think it's one of the great things about the film is it sort of came from the grassroots. There was a need for the story to be told, and then universe works in mysterious ways, and we're very appreciative to be able to work with David to tell that story.
Well, David, I want to talk about the people that you connected with that are the indigenous people of this region who have taken it upon themselves to protect their native land. Director David Gardner, there are a couple of key people in the film that we get to know. One of them is the photographer Ulet, who seems like a way into meeting the indigenous people in this story. Let's talk a little bit about how you got to know Ulet, and also how you went about establishing a level of cooperation and trust with the indigenous people that are so important in telling this particular story.
Well, I had taken interest in Sumatra and the Leuser ecosystem through an organization I founded called Planet Experts, and we were publishing environmental journalism, and I read about palm oil, and I read about the Leuser ecosystem for the first time, and was really taken aback that there's this incredible ecosystem that really very few people have heard of, including myself at the time. And I was fortunate to be linked with Shayne, and flew over and met Shayne in Sumatra in 2016, October of 2016. And it was really Shayne who introduced me to all the incredible people on the ground, Rudy Putra, Ian Singleton, Farwiza Farhand, Ulet, the photographer, Panut, who investigates wildlife crime. And each of them is founded a major environmental organization. They're world renowned, and they're all targeting the preservation, protection of the Leuser ecosystem and the animals in their own specific way. And Shayne and I knew from the beginning that the story was about them. and the cameras should be on them, and we wanted to follow their journey. And that began, 8 to 9 years of filming that initial trip. And we shot for 3 weeks the first time, and the original intention was to make a short film. And Shane and I decided along the way, like, there's a lot happening here, and this is, as Shane said, an important story, and we just kept going.
And I don't think I did a very good job of describing the importance of palm oil in our diet and the and products that we use on a regular basis. For people who are listening to this conversation, what would we best know palm oil? How does it kind of become, how is it part of our dietary and cosmetic lives? Shayne, how does that factor in?
Palm oil is found in over 50% of processed goods in the supermarket. So it ranges from cookies and crisps through to shampoos and soaps. Yeah, it's in almost everything. And the thing about it is it's as an oil, it's solid at room temperature. So palm oil itself kind of quite remarkable. Definitely not a movie against palm oil, but
Right.
it's the cultivation practices that out of control over in Indonesia and the corruption that's come along with it, with the land grabs and the destructions. Unfortunately, I think a lot of us would like to be able to think like, oh, if that's so bad, how about I just don't buy it? But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, it's in our shelves already. We could go into the kitchen and find it and half the stuff in our cupboards.
You're right. This is not a film that is attacking palm oil, but just the cultivation, the use of the land that where the palm oil trees are. And I'm not going to give anything away about the way forward because the film gets into a lot of the issues and how it impacts the people in the region. But palm oil has become more and more important in the world, and there's a huge market for it. So, and when you're dealing with countries who are resource rich but are not wealthy population wise in terms of the opportunities to make money, you get into this dynamic, right, where big companies can come in and throw their weight around and essentially get what they want. I mean, I don't want to overstate this, but Shayne, is that dynamic, what I'm describing, a big reason why we're dealing with what we see in this film?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, part of the necessity of telling the film and taking the 90-minute format was to really be able to connect those dots as well, as far as like, yeah, the palm oil on the market and the money, how that money's making its way around the globe, but how that's being used for influence locally. I was fortunate enough to be working in Indonesia with one of the government agencies tasked to protect and restore the Leuser ecosystem, and we were seeing corruption and intimidation regularly. If it wasn't a suitcase full of cash in exchange for a signature to destroy a protected area, it was threats of violence. And that's something that, the crew over in Indonesia, our friends, the heroes of the story, that's something that they experience in their lives all the time as well. So it's remarkable. Again, it's their remarkable story and
Yeah.
their preservation and the perseverance to be able to fight against those influences and the success that they're able to garner is what really makes this story something quite exciting and uplifting.
There's another whole element to the story, which you mentioned earlier, but it really is kind of, there's a lot of emotional reasons to be drawn to this film. And that is along with the exploitation of these palm oil trees and they use and replacing the natural environment with these palm oil trees is the impact it's having on wildlife. And also, as you highlight in the film, wildlife, the black market for wildlife in this region. So that's another huge element of it. But before we dive into that a little more, I want to ask David, for we geography impaired people here in America, where is Sumatra?
Um, Sumatra is one of the largest islands in Indonesia. It's right above Java, very close to Singapore. Sumatra's lost, I think since 1990, it's lost 29,000 square miles of forest, which is an
Yeah.
extraordinary amount. And Leuser is the largest block of intact forest in Sumatra. It's at the sort of at the top. It's kind of shaped like a butterfly. It's it's highly protected, which, as Shayne pointed out, hasn't stopped encroachment. We used a lot of satellite imagery in the film to show that. It is, I think, emblematic of the victories of the people on the ground, that they have come a long way in stopping the decline and engaging with, oil palm plantation owners, engaging with the government of Aceh, which is the province at the top of Sumatra where the majority of Leuser is, and the Rainforest Action Network, who are featured in our film. They've engaged with the major buyers from Pepsi, Unilever, Procter and Gamble, and Nestle, and trying to get them on the ground. So it's a collective effort among a lot of people to protect this place. But you're right to ask, because when you do tell people that we've been filming, we tell them we've been filming in Sumatra. It's like, where is that? What country is it a part of?
And it's these countries that we don't know very much about or nothing about that are the places in the world that are being exploited to such a degree that it could easily set in motion a kind of cascading effect of environmental catastrophes that we will rue the day that we didn't understand where these places were and why they're important. So this is one part of a big puzzle, big mosaic, I should say, of places around the world that are completely foreign to us, most of us. But the impacts of deforestation, the impacts of clear cutting, all the rest of it, we will soon rue the day we didn't know about these places. And this is a great example of why we should be paying attention. The Last Place on Earth is a great document as to why we should care.
And one thing, Mike, that people should be aware of about Loser and how it impacts us in the destruction of this far off ecosystem is that it's very rich in peat. These are very swampy, free coal, meters deep deposits of thousands of years of organic, detritus that's collapsed on the forest floor. And when they encroach on these peatlands, they drain the water out of the ecosystem. First, they knock all the trees down, which is incredibly violent. And you think about each tree being its own ecosystem and the amount of animals and reptiles and birds that rely on it. And then they drain it and they light everything on fire. And the fire goes deep into the ground. It's very difficult to put out. It smokes, and it's just emitting tons and tons of carbon. And I think that numbers, there's something like 50 gigatons of carbon left in these peatlands. So, when all that gets burned and goes up in the atmosphere, it affects global climate change and all kinds of things that we're all connected to in that way.
Right. And that carbon, that peat that you're describing is a carbon sink, which is holding, as you were saying, it's holding on to the carbon. And by
Mhm.
burning it, yes, you're releasing it. Shayne, there's a very emotionally driven and I'll say rewarding, I don't want to give too much away, through line in the film with Emerlin, an orangutan that we find chained to the side of a hut, essentially. Let's talk a little bit about Emerlin's journey in this film because it's way that we often focus on. We focus on something we can hold on to, and this is certainly a storyline in the film that I think all the people watching it will relate to.
So it's the byproduct of the deforestation in the Leuser ecosystem. The forest gets smashed down, and we meet and we talk to palm oil workers that they'll be chainsawing the forest. They'll see an orangutan with a baby. The mother will be killed in the process. The baby will be taken and then sold on the black market. Some of the organizations that are featured, like Panut and in Singleton, they're rescuing the orangutans and rehabilitating, getting them out of the black market, giving them another shot at life. So
Yeah.
the work that they do, like on a one by one basis, saving individuals one at a time, is really really remarkable. But yeah, you're right, it's heart moving. A cute little baby orangutan. There's some challenging imagery in the film. It doesn't shy away from the dark side of the illegal wildlife trade, but some really uplifting moments with some adorable wildlife in there too.
Well, even more so, this sort of you sense the family structure, you sense their ability to communicate. There's so much about the orangutan that are our cousins.
Yeah, yeah. You look into the eyes of the orangutan, and you can see yourself there.
Yeah. It's hard not to see that. I mean, anyone who doesn't see that we are as connected to them as they are to their fellow primates is just dead wrong. It's really that's the thing about this film. It gives you a lot of lays the groundwork with a lot of education about what palm oil is, the impacts, the deforestation, and it brings you along to understanding how, and this has been my opinion for quite some time, the indigenous peoples of the world are going to be the ones who I think help save us from ourselves because they have a greater understanding of the importance of the things that we are destroying and are prepared to defend those resources, those parts of the world, and show us a way forward. I really do believe that they will show us a way forward to get past what could be very dire consequences if we continue to do what we're doing.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's again, I think there's a lot of different ways in which we try to connect the dots in the film. And
Yeah.
that knowledge is definitely one of them, how, how science is catching up and with all the information and now we've got AI, if we could learn enough to realize that people have known for hundreds and thousands and generations that protecting the environment was very important to us from the outset, then maybe we've learned enough to give ourselves a chance.
Amen to that. Well, I would just want to let people know that in The Last Place on Earth, it is screening at the Dances with Films. And then also, as I mentioned, moving on from there, it'll be screening in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. You're listening to our conversation in near Woods Hill, Massachusetts. That'll be there on July 26th, and then later on, the Port Townsend Film Festival on September 24th through the 27th, and it'll be screening there. So if you're as big a film person as I am, you'll know where all those things are and how to go and how to watch it. And if we want to go to a website, where should we send people?
Lastplaceonearth.com. And there you'll find the trailer, information about all the amazing
Yeah.
people in the film and stories about the Leuser ecosystem and the importance.
Beautiful film. And a great message for all of us to take with us moving forward. I want to thank our guest today, the director, David Booth Gardner, as well as the producer, Shayne McGrath. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Mike.
having us.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.